Welcome everybody to the ultimate Reinhardt guide. I finally made Pro 5, which doesn't mean that I'm good, but it means I played a lot of Stadium. So hopefully I can talk from experience, and well, hopefully we can learn a thing or two. I'm gonna be covering everything I know about playing Reinhardt for, I don't know how long, 12 hours or something like that in Stadium. That's competitive. I played 10 minutes in competitive. I played 12 hours of Stadium. So I played quite a bit of Reinhardt this week. I'm gonna be covering everything that is possibly there is to know. Items, power-ups, builds I found, compositions against, compositions for. So that you have everything prepared for you. Now, I am not going to provide strict builds that have 98% win rate and you're gonna pop off every game and just demolish the Robbie, because there is no such thing, okay? Yes, the Fire Trucks build is really good. We'll get into that. But there's not going to be a strict build with items and power-ups that is just going to be the best for you every single game. It's dynamic. It depends on what you're up against, what the opponents are building. But hopefully I can provide enough knowledge so you have some rough idea of what you're going to do. So, just laying out what we're going to talk about. There are 3 builds you can go. They're all kind of like varying strengths. The first one is the Fire Strike build, which is the best, the most consistent build. It's the one that will win the most games. It works in the most matchups. It's ever reliable. And honestly, you can probably go Fire Strike against any kind of enemy compositions, and you'd probably have a lot of impact if you just play it right. Now, there are against some enemy compositions, whether it's, you know, like a lot of mitigation, like Orisa Genji with double deflect, stuff like that, where it's just not worth the effort, and maybe you want to go something like a melee build instead. And that is my second build I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover the melee build, which does have a place. Depending on the enemy composition. And the third is a bit of a meme build, but it's like dive Rein. You know, you start flying, you got shield, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You go deep, questionable value at times, but yeah, it's fun. You want to have fun. It's a video game. I'm not going to cover a shield build in this game. I know some people, they really like to play shield builds, but I don't like to play shield builds because it puts too much pressure on my team to pop off. And unless you're playing with a squad, like a hit scan player or something, to me, it's simply not worth the effort. Now, does it have a place? Probably. There's probably, you know, several compositions where if you have a 6 shield and, you know, you have like 4,000 shield and you get healed by your shield and you're playing super tanky, like maybe that has a place for it. But I feel like it's pretty inconsistent, and, you know, if that's your thing, go for it. But I haven't experimented with it a ton. But you could get into it. Secondly, before I get into the items and power-ups, I have a theory. My theory is that playing hybrid builds is not super good. If you have a little bit of ability power, a little bit of weapon damage, a little bit of shield, a little bit of survivability, I don't think that's the way Stadium is supposed to be played right now. Maybe down the line if they balance it some kind of way. But for the moment, I think once you get to late game, around 6-7, you need to be good at one thing. You need to be really, really good at one thing, and then just hope that you have enough impact with that one thing to help you get across the finish line and win the series. And so, I don't know, that's just a theory. People might disagree with that, but my thinking is if I'm up against a Cassidy and a Soldier, they're scaling incredibly well into the late game, then I want my Fire Strikes to be sick, and I want my Fire Strikes to one-shot the opponents. I want my shield to have 4,000 shield that I regenerate in 2 seconds, and it's just overwhelming. Because otherwise I think that I'm going to be taken apart and I'm not going to have the impact in all aspects of my play. And so I prefer to just specialize in one single thing and just go hard at it and try to essentially outscale in that one thing before the opponents get a break or catch a break or something like that. So for example, the Fire Strike build we're going to get into, I like to just go all out ability power to get more and more damage in before my opponent are allowed to get more survival items and stuff like that. And even if we're losing, I like the fact that my Fire Strikes can be so powerful that they're able to help us claw ourselves back into the game. So that's the way I like to play Stadium anyway. I like to just be super good at one single thing. Now, before we get into the builds themselves, I just want to talk a little bit about the powers and just my quick thoughts on them. You know, take this for what it's worth, but this is just my opinion after playing the Reinhardt for a long time here. So I'm gonna go through all the powers first, and then we can make some builds here. So first off, we got Amplification Barrier. I don't think this is super good because 15% damage, it's not too much. Now, if you got like 2 hit scans, you got like an Ash, and Cassidy or something, then yeah, maybe it's super worth. But I don't think that this power-up alone is going to give you like a huge turning point in the game, an inflection point in the game. There's going to be a game breaker and you end up winning the game. Barrier Reconstruction, I'm kind of open to this one. I don't pick it that often. I pick it very rarely, but I think that sometimes it could be useful if you combine it with like Wilhelmwagen, because you essentially regenerate health by getting shield back, which means you get more health from Wilhelmwagen. To be my friends, if you're playing like a 5-stack comp, maybe, but 3% of your max life, even if you have like 1,000 life, that's going to be 30 health per second in like an AoE. Maybe it gets a little bit crazy if you scale and you all stack up, but I think it's too inconsistent and not something I'd pick, because again, I don't think it helps you win the game in like a pretty straightforward way. Wilhelmwagen is good though. This thing lets you heal from your shield, and it allows, it's just very consistent. Like, it just makes your gameplay better, which is sometimes what you need from a power-up. There are some games where like you're not quite sure which power-up to go. Wilhelmwagen, usually very consistent. It's not great in like the Reinhardt mirror, but if you got a Reaper on you that just teleported on you, Wraith walked on you, then Wilhelmwagen, it allows you to escape a little bit faster because you can shield up, you can run away from the Reaper, and at least allow you to survive a bit longer. And of course, there's the heal involved as well, so you have a bit more staying power. I think the heal is a little bit overrated, because if you have like a 2,000 shield, then you can get 300 healing if they kill the entire shield, which by its lonesome, I don't think that's too much. But I do like Wilhelmwagen. It's a solid perk. Shield Stampede, really good against certain heroes. Ana, Sleep Darts, Cassidy, you know, with the hinder effect, of course. Orisa, Javelins. Basically, if there's something you can't block, then I think Shield Stampede is a really solid power-up, and it's certainly viable. I pick Shield Stampede quite a bit in my gameplay, usually my second, third, kind of like mid-game kind of perk there. Vanguard, I think Vanguard is sneaky good. I'm not sure how many other Reinhardts are picking Vanguard, but I think it's quite good, because if I'm playing as a comp that doesn't have Sleep Darts and Hinder and stuff like that, if we're playing like a melee build, hell, if we're even playing, you know, any kind of build really, I think that giving your teammates 10% over health is quite impactful, and I think 20% move speed for your charge it just helps your team like follow up on you and help you out as well, so you can be quite aggressive. I just want to put in perspective here. If you give overhealth to your nearby allies equal to 10% of your max life, I mean, if you have 1,000 life, that is 100 health. So that can be a lot for you know, your damage or support players or stuff like that. So I think Vanguard is quite useful, and it's a consistent perk that I pick quite a bit. Not usually when I play like Fire Strike build and stuff like that, but if I'm playing like a melee build and we're being aggressive and we're brawling, I think this is quite good to just push the momentum further. Room Boom Boom, I think it's a bit inconsistent, hard to get value from this. Even if you go full ability power, yes, you can get more damage on your charge, but realistically, the charge, especially if you have ability power, should be enough to kill a target, and you shouldn't need an extra 30% pin damage. How often are the opponents going to be stacked up so you get like a big splash and just hits all of them? Not that often. It sounds amazing in theory, but I don't think it's super powerful. I rarely pick this perk. Blazing Blitz, hear me out. Hear me out. I think that this could be good. I honest to God, you can't see it because my cam is over it. But this could be good. Not because, you know, Earth Shatter is super reliable or anything like that, but I'm thinking like as a round 7 perk. Let's say you have a Fire Strike build. You have 120% ability power. Your Fire Strikes are absolutely insane, just murdering the opponent. The fact that you can Earth Shatter, you get more Fire Strikes, so you can do two Fire Strikes, Fire Strike, Fire Strike, Shatter, Fire Strike, Fire Strike. Like, that is a lot of damage, and it scales really well. So I'm thinking for like round 7, I think Blazing Blitz, which gives you Fire Strikes with your Earth Shatter, could be good if you don't have any different kind of like power up you want to go in round 7. So if you're playing Fire Strike build and it's late in the game and you're really powerful and you want more, I think Blazing Blitz could be underrated. But I haven't experimented that much with myself, but I'm eager to though. Impact Burst, one of the best ones. It's my go-to number 1 power up if I'm doing a Fire Strike build. Super consistent. I essentially view it as like you get 20% ability power off the rip, and there's actually quite a few times where the enemies are stacked up and you do get the extra 20% damage in a small radius if you're just throwing out your Fire Strikes, especially started rounds. Really good power up. My go-to one, and something I pick up quite a bit. Magnum Strike, too inconsistent, especially that you need to cast the Fire Strike consecutively. Really bad for this one. Because you want to be able to cast your fire strikes, kind of like, or you get one fire strike up, you throw it when you have a good chance. You don't want to feel like you have to wait all the time to build up the second fire strike to put lava on the floor. Lava, by the way, which the enemy can avoid. So very inconsistent, not that good. Even if you're playing fire strike build, I don't really go this one at all, to be honest with you. So I'd stay away from magma strike. If there was one comment I'd have for the devs on this one, please just make it so that like every 2 fire strikes there's lava on the floor, not that they have to be cast consecutively, because it really just takes away from the experience. Would that be OP? I don't know, but that's just my feedback. Feeling the burn, I don't rate this one as much. It's essentially, if you think about it, like getting 10 weapon power for every swing, because every third you get 30%, and so, you know, if you're going rocket hammer build, then yeah, realistically, maybe you can build this one. I don't really build Feeling the Burn though. I don't value it that much. I also don't think that building weapon power is super strong for Reinhardt. I build for smashing instead, which is the other weapon build. You get movement speed, lifesteal. I think it synergizes way more with what you're trying to do with a melee Reinhardt, where you're running around. You need move speed to get around and keep this building, of course. Now, Feeling the Burn, right now, at the recording of this video, is bugged. So it's actually quite good. They might even have sneakily hotfixed it. But there is a bug that the burn actually resets your fire strikes if you have dampener grip, which resets some of your cooldown. But I typically go smashing, especially because I don't know if this is intended either, but you build stacks on Mei walls. So if the Mei puts up a Mei wall, there's like 4 pillars or whatever it is. When you hit those, you build a stack. So you can swipe one Mei wall and have like 4 stacks, 5 stacks ready to go, and immediately you have 25% move speed and you have 20% weapon lifesteal. And so when I'm against a composition like a Mei, I like to go smashing instead, especially if I'm against a composition where it's hard for me to land fire strikes. So I don't know, you know, if they change that, obviously keep that in mind. But as the way smashing works right now against Mei walls, I think you can build those stacks quite reliably, and then you can get brawly with the Mei and the other tank that's right in front of you. So that's my thoughts on all the power-ups in the game. Quickly, I want to cover some of these items here as well. Just to like briefly just cover what we're going to go through here. I did notice that my cam is a little bit in the way, so I'm just going to... Oh my god, that's complete opposite of what I wanted to do. Well, the magic of doing everything live in one go. Here we go. All right. So, what are my go-to items when I make a build? Pretty much consistently, I go for 10% weapon lifesteal, frenzy amplifier, and power playbook if I'm doing a fire strike build, or ability lifesteal sometimes if I do a melee build. Now, why do I do this? Well, first of all, let's cover frenzy amplifier. I think frenzy amplifier is good because it allows me, like if we're a 5 versus 4 situation, we get an elimination, I can immediately capitalize on that and snowball the fight and get active. I think 15% move speed is huge for Reinhardt, especially for the cost of this item. 10% attack speed as well. You know, you get an elimination so often in fights. So realistically, this is going to be up, at least for a brief moment in a fight, and you're going to get value out of it. So I think it's my go-to 1500 item. You know, there are some other ones, like you get 5% move speed from heartbeat sensor. I'm just like 5% move speed, like, doesn't really do it for me. Like, I'd rather want the small burst of a lot of stuff going for me with frenzy amplifier than a lot of these other, like 25 armor, you know, 20% move speed for 10-second while of combat, and you know, all of this stuff. Like, to be honest, I never pick any of these. I like never pick any of these at all in survival. Even in Fire Strike build, I will go with Plasma Converter, which is 10% weapon lifesteal. The reason for this is that I think that the weapon lifesteal is more consistent when you're in combat and you actually need lifesteal. So even if I'm building a Fire Strike build at the start, I won't get ability lifesteal, because if you're charging in and you get a pin, yes, that is a lot of healing, but how many pins are you getting at a single round? It's a little inconsistent. If you're Fire Striking before a fight, you probably don't need a healed anyway. But if I'm swinging at someone, odds are I've taken damage and I need healing and I'm in a brawl, and so the lifesteal is actually like relevant, and I get it. So that's why I like going Plasma Converter as well. 5% weapon power, 5% attack speed, max ammo. I don't really go for this one because they're so small that I don't really think that they impact the game, especially in the early rounds. These are the ones I don't really pick at all. So these are essentially my 4 go-tos. Is 10% weapon lifesteal, frenzy amplifier, power playbook, 10% ability power, and 10% ability lifesteal. Those are my go-to common items. Moving on to the rare items. It kind of depends on what you build you're going for. So we'll cover this a little bit. But Shield Buster is good, of course, if you're playing against like on a Orisa or something like that. Knockback resist can be good if you're playing against like a Boop Lucy or something like that, or like on a Orisa that like javelins and stuff like that. I like to experiment with these if I'm doing like a melee build, and we'll get to that later. Codebreaker, don't really go for this one. I don't really go for a lot of these at all. People rarely have weapon speed, and so it's not really worth to get the weapon jammer. Booster jets can be really powerful because 20% move speed allows you to get active with Reinhardt, so I like this one. And I will also give a shout out to Dampener Grip, which is one of my favorites. When you deal damage with Rocket Hammer, reduce the cooldown of your abilities 1 second. Really powerful if you're allowed to swing in the tank duel. So if you're up against another Reinhardt, then you can get 3, 4 swings in. Really powerful, and it's a lot more cooldown reduction than realistically any other item there is on the board here. And so I really like Dampener Grip for that reason. Even if you're on a Fire Strike build, you get 10% ability power, you get reduced cooldowns. It depends on the matchup you have. If you're allowed to swing quite a bit, it's an item I like to go for. If you're against a matchup that you're not really swinging against, then you're not going to get value out of this, and I'd much rather go in different directions. There are like some over-the-top items here, like Plan Z, gain 3% attack speed for every 100 missing life. Maybe like very late game in a melee build, but realistically it's so expensive, and you know, if you're missing like 500 health, you get 15% attack speed and 10% weapon power. Doesn't really do it for me. I don't think it's enough to justify the cost, and especially like mid-game, so it had to be like a late-game item. Moving on to ability power. We got Energized Bracers. Gives ability power, 4,000 cost. Really solid all around. Custom Stock, 10% ability power. These are good filler items when you have cash, especially like 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, and you need to spend cash. Then you can pick these up for extra ability power rather than like getting 1 single epic. I like to break it down, get 2 rare ones. I don't really get starting ultimate charge. I don't think Earth Shatter is good enough to justify it, even though it can be a, you know, game breaker sometimes. I skip all 3 of these. Nano Cola, really good ability power, but make sure that, you know, again, that like you optimize the cost of your items here. Booster Cycler, I'd never really take this one, even if I'm on like a Reinhardt duel or stuff like that. I just don't think that charge is good enough to like justify it. What, you got like 4 seconds or something like that on charge? Don't really get this item at all. Chimera Maw, go-to item immediately on a Fire Strike build. 50% Fire Strike radius is huge. So I definitely go this one a lot if I'm going to Fire Strike build. And moving on to the epic items. I don't really get a ton of these. I think Galactic Crystal, Catalytic Crystal could be good. You know, you build more ultimate charge sometimes. But it's more of like a late game item for me. I don't think it's worth justifying a mid to late game. And Cyber Venom is really good. Healing reduction, always going to be really good for any kind of Overwatch game ever. Because you do reduce heal. That's a lot of effective damage essentially. And you get 10% ability power. So great in a Fire Strike build. What's next? Smooth speed, not really. I'd never really get liquid nitrogen. I don't think it justifies it. So now we get to the big boy items. Champion's Kit, 40% ability power. If you can afford to buy this, it is sometimes worth justifying getting the extra ability power and sacrificing something else. So if you can decide between 50% ability power and 60% ability power, but maybe you get 50% with 10% ability lifesteal or something else, I just prefer to like upscale and just secure the extra ability power, and Champions Kits allow you to do that with 1350 cost. So again, keep optimization of cash in mind when you build your items that you have available to you. But Champions Kit, amazing, especially when you're building Fire Strike, right? Griffon Glider, that's what makes you fly during charge. Obviously, what something we'll cover later in the dive build, because you want this one. It gets ridiculous. It's really fun. And then Rocket Strike. I think this one is good most of the time in the Fire Strike. There are situations where we're on a really close map where I'm most likely going to hit my Fire Strike anyway because I got the Fire Strike width. And so, like, what do I need the projectile speed for? If I'm most likely going to hit my Fire Strike in a very close corridor map, like Anubis, for example, then I don't feel the immediate need to go for this one if I can secure 10% extra ability power elsewhere. So, a little map dependent. Most of the time you want Rocket Strike, but there are also situations where if you can get more ability power elsewhere, don't just pick Rocket Strike immediately, because it doesn't always need to be picked up. But, of course, if you like the extra projectile speed, go for it. Alright, moving on to survival. Cushion padding. Really good against like Orisa, Cassidy, Ana. If you're in a game against an Orisa, Cassidy, Ana, this is an item I would consider like round 3, round 4. Because they're all going to be quite consistent stunts. Depends a little bit of like how all in you want to play, because if you're building a Fire Strike build, I'm not gonna complain if you go more ability power and you just completely ignore the 10% max life over 3 seconds. But if you want to play a bit more safe, then I think this is a reasonable item to get. Now, at the time of this recording this video, armor is bugged. So, while Reaper, Diva, Shotgun Heroes, armor should apply for each single pellet, it just applies on the whole, you know, explosion. I don't know what the actual technical term is. And so armor is bugged right now. So Reaper is just freaking broken in Stadium. Under usual circumstances where armor is fixed, then yeah, maybe getting more armor can help against Shotgun Heroes, but I'll show you some examples later. But these are not items I'm prioritizing until they actually fix armor. But I do like Vitality, 100 health into armor. I do like Crusader Hydraulics, especially if we're doing like a dive build, because then I want some survivability. I think Mecha Zed series and the big brother of Mecha Zed series is Rustem von Wilhelm. I think these are good because it allows you again to be more survivable. You want more health, you want more armor. Great. It's pretty straightforward. So we'll cover those more later in the dive build. But those are items I would keep in mind if you obviously want to stay alive. Now, if you're building a Fire Strike build, if you're building a melee build, I wouldn't be so quick to just overly invest in survival. But for those niche situations, want to go for like a shield build or a dive build, some survivability can be nice because you don't really benefit as much from ability power elsewhere or stuff like that. It kind of depends on what perks or power-ups, rather, that you're picking here. Using charge can cleanse all negative effects. I don't really go for this one. I know theoretically it could be good if you're bionated by an Ana. It can be quite useful in a Reinhardt matchup because if you counter charge, that's a bunch of Chewbacca's. Welcome, ice cream. If you counter charge, then you can actually like cleanse of the stun that happens in a counter charge, but it's not really worth picking it in general for me. If you want to go a shield build, you can with like Overclock Barrier, of course. Rocket Boots. Some maps where Rocket Boots is quite handy. I would say that one is the Hanamura-esque Clash map, because you can actually reach like the balcony and stuff like that. And so I can... I would keep that in mind. If you're loading into the Hanamura Clash map, and you're like, hey, you know, I want to reach the high grounds, then, you know, Rocket Boots could be handy. But, again, it's not really an item that I pick up at all. For the rest of these survival items, again, I'm not a huge survival guy. Gloom Gauntlet, I think this is a really good go-to item if you're building a melee build, because you get move speed, and you get to restore max life over 2 seconds, and you get melee damage. And so this is a really good item if you're building that melee build. We'll get to that later. But for these other Phantasmic Flux, again, good in a melee build here, because realistically, if you get crazy with lifesteal, you're going to get some of that overhealth as well when you're at full life. So this just makes your weapon stronger. So this is definitely an item I consider. Rustem von Wilhelm, like I mentioned, great for survivability as well. Vanadium Injection, controversial item. Controversial item. My opinion is, I think Earthshatter is good enough that it justifies being used sometimes to win fights. And I also think that building an ultimate takes so long sometimes that not getting value at the start of the game kind of sets you back. So I don't like Vanadium Injection. I know some other Reinhardts, they do, and they go for this in like a melee build or something like that. I personally don't. I prefer to be able to shadow when I can and get consistent value elsewhere. Nebula Conduit could be good if you're up against large burst damage. So if you're playing against a Fire Strike Reinhardt that deals a ton of damage, then maybe, yeah, you can build Nebula Conduit and recharge some of that health. It's definitely an item to keep in mind. Again, I don't really build survival items most of the time. Reduction Field, I don't really think this is worth it, because if you get to 10 stacks after 20 things of damage or whatever, again, it's 10% damage reduction. So I don't really see the big deal. I don't think that it's that good. And then of course it's the shield items as well. So if you want to go that shield build, all right. That's all the power-ups. That's all the items. Let's get into the actual builds themselves. So again, like I said, the Fire Strike build, not that complicated. All right, you build ability power. So again, starting off, I like 10% ability power, weapon, lifesteal, frenzy amplifier. That's my go-to round one. That's what I get right off the rip. And like I said, I think weapon lifesteal is more important for the Fire Strike build, even at the round one, because the melee heal is active when you're fighting. So I value it more than the weapon lifesteal. All right, after that, I like to hang on to frenzy amplifier, and we usually have enough cash to get a couple of blue items. So first one I go is Chimera Small if I'm building a Fire Strike build. Of course, Fire Strike Radius, really strong for us. Now, then comes the choice. If I have enough cash, I'll get Nano Cola. So we got 30% ability power in round 2, round 3. But sometimes if you can't afford Nano Cola, just pick up Energized Bracers. And this is where, you know, that kind of depends on how much cash you have round 2, round 3. And then, of course, you want to weave in the power playbook as well. 10% ability power from a green item. So round 2, round 3, it kind of just depends of how to allocate your ability power resources here. And so that's what I just look to do here. Any way you can build around these ability power items with the cash you have available for you and the item slots you have available for you. Stick to the greens and blues for this first couple of rounds here. And then, you know, sometimes I'll get custom stock if I really need to, but this is like my last resort extra ability power item there. Now, as we get to the big boy items, it kind of depends on what you're up against. Like I said, Rocket Strike, I like it. It's usually my go-to epic item, but again, there are situations where I will forego it. So, you know, if there's a question where I can get Champions Kit earlier instead of Rocket Strike, I will prioritize the extra 20% ability power from Champions Kit, even if I'm in a scenario where I have to sell Rocket Strike and, you know, a green item. Maybe they'll just give me an extra 10% ability power, but I will still pick up Champions Kit because I value the 10% ability power. It scales really well with the power up, and I will forego the Rocket Strike. But if you want to, you know, just get like a basic build kind of thing, then I would, you know, pick Rocket Strike because it's a more general like kind of item pickup. And then you might go to like Cyber Venom or something like that. So if we were theoretically to just make like a straight up, if you want the basic kind of thing ever of just like, hey, what are my go-to like kind of like ability power items here? I would realistically just go something like this. Just like max out that ability power as much as you possibly can, and then just play accordingly. Try to stay alive. You're basically playing a sniper Reinhardt. You just want to weave in as many fire strikes as possible to make the opponents explode. And you don't want to go in. You don't want to be swinging too much at the opponent, depending, of course, how you're playing it. I'll show some examples later. But you gotta keep in mind that you're playing Fire Strike build, and so it's not your typical kind of Reinhardt engagement, right? You want to just weave in Fire Strikes as much as you can on targets that you can possibly hit. So, yeah, I could sell that. I could sell the Frenzied Amplifier and just pick up another item. Whichever you want here, really. There you go, 115% ability power. So that's just the way I think about playing Fire Strike build right now. Just all out, and just destroy people. Do you want survivability? I don't really rate it, unless there are some scenarios where, you know, maybe you justify like the cushion padding that we talked about before. For my power-ups for the Fire Strike build, first off, Impact Burst, like I covered previously, 20% ability power off the rip, and then it splashes, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, for your second power, it depends on what you're up against. This is where, you know, Stadium is fun, because it changes depending on what you're up against. If I'm playing against like an Ana, Cassidy, or something that will interrupt me when I charge, and Orisa, then I'll pick Shield Stampede, because I think it's, you know, like the go-to kind of like power. Like, it gives you so much value because you can get in there, get busy with it, and you don't get interrupted from your charge the entire time. But if you're not playing against that, don't go Shield Stampede. Why do you want to shield when you're charging if it doesn't like protect you from something? Yes, maybe you take less damage when you're going in, but I think there are better power-ups to go in these kind of scenarios. So I think something like Wilhelm Wagen could be really good in that situation, where it's really consistent. You get value from it all the time. And so I like going Wilhelm Wagen in that scenario. And then this is where it gets interesting, you know. Do you want to go Vanguard here? Do you want to go in more? Do you want to play with Blazing Blitz in round 7? I would perfectly be fine with you picking Blazing Blitz in round 7 and just getting more and more fire strikes. I don't want to see you go Vroom Boom Boom, even though you have ability power. And I honestly, if you want to go Magma Strike, you can, but I don't really rate it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really rate Magma Strike, so I wouldn't go it. But considering this, you know, map 7, I would go with Blazing Blitz personally. So there are a few other power-ups here that are available to you depending on what kind of like game you have in front of you. If you want to go with Magma Strike, then that's fine, but I wouldn't because I don't like the lava. I don't think it's worth saving your fire strikes to just do it off the rip. Especially if you're up against a Genji or an Orisa, you're just making it easier for them to deflect it and eat it up, and you don't want to do that. So could see some alternation to this, but this is like your kind of like basic, well-rounded, I'd say, power-ups for a fire strike build here. So all-out ability power. And it just kind of gets crazy with it. So yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Okay. So I have some examples here I do want to show of just like how silly it can get here. So let's see if this works this time around. So if I go here and we can get this wall up right here, and you can just kind of see for yourself, it gets a little silly. You just throw the fire strikes out and you deal tons of damage. Like, the enemies don't even know what like realistically happened to them. They just take a fire strike and they're dead. I get a 2k, boom. I just fire strike the entire team. Like, they're just gone. And you can just snipe people. I played a game earlier today where I was against Frogger and Aspen. And I just like launched fire strikes and people just die. Like, they just die. Like, they're just dead. Like, I'm just... The fight hasn't even, like, started yet. And I'm just lobbing these in, like, fire strike. And people just die. So, it gets... They're just dead. They're just dead. So, it gets insane with the fire strike build. But keep that in mind, like I said. Don't try to charge in. Manage your shield. Play really safe. Keep in mind that Genji's deflecting. I'm keeping that in mind. Okay, there's no Genji deflect. Now it's free from the fire strike. So, if you're up against an Orisa, if you're up against a Genji... Always keep in mind the fire strike and the deflect, and the javelin spin, because if those are available for the opponent, it's just yeah, you know that it's not good for you. Sorry, Frogger, my bad, homie. Boom. So keep that in mind when you're playing the fire strike build. Now, like I said, most of the time you'll be able to play the fire strike build. It's really consistent, so I don't really care what you're up against. You could honestly even be up against, like, you know, a Diva that can Matrix. Like, if they play, like, Diva Matrix build, maybe don't go Fire Strike. But I think that Fire Strike is so consistently good that you can realistically play it against, like, any opponent, enemy composition and get value if you just manage your Fire Strikes well and you have enough ability power. It's that broken. Like, it's straight up just, like, the most broken Reinhardt build right now. So keep that in mind. I think actually I went melee this game actually. So keep that in mind. But really good most of the time. Go Fire Strike build. It's the most fun. It's a ton of fun. It's really good. Okay, so moving on to a couple of other builds here. Let's talk about the melee build then. So melee build, it's okay. It's not great. It's okay. Now, let me first see if these bugs are still in the game. Because, like I said, feeling the burn can be a little bugged here. So, if it's still bugged, whoops, you would be able to regenerate fire strikes on the second, or on the burn damage. Okay, well this is not. I need to find a big bot. Let me find a big bot. Okay, so that was the burn. Now we just need 2 more. I can count, by the way. So, realistically... Wait, did I hit that thing? If I fire strike here, and I apply burn... Like, I just ticked up to 2 immediately. I just got 2 fire strikes immediately with my dampener grip and my burn damage. Like, it's just out of control. So, keep that in mind if you're building a melee build. Keep that in mind. That this item is bugged right now. Now, they are going to fix that. But it does make melee build a little bit stronger for now. Now, I can bring up that VOD again, and I can also show you, like I mentioned previously, when I was up against this. So you can see right here, I'm building melee build. And let me just see if I can find like a moment where I'm actually like fighting this Mei wall at hand there, because essentially whenever they put the Mei wall up, I'm gonna be swinging that Mei wall, it pretty much all the time. So I think this might be a moment. I mean, I could just be making stuff up here. So right near, you see bottom right, I have one charge is about to run out, and this Mei wall is right here. I'll be doing one swing, boom, and it's immediately up. 4. I got 4 charges off the rip from one swing, and that means like 16% move speed, 16% weapon lifesteal. It's bonkers. It's broken. It's absurd. So if you're up against a composition that allows you to swing, like let's say you're playing like against a diva and a Mei, so already you're like, okay, well I don't want to go fire strike against a diva because they're just gonna eat my fire strikes all the time, and I can build berserking charges off the Mei wall. Just go melee build instead. Like this is where it actually comes in handy, because then you can juggle both berserking and feel the burn. So I'm gonna be building my melee build as if feeling the burn is still broken. So keep that in mind, of course. But if they change this, I honestly wouldn't go feeling the burn, because I don't really rate it that much anymore. Okay, so I usually start off with smashing, because again, it allows me to get busy with it. Now, if you're building a melee build, move speed is critical. And so that's why I like going smashing first. If feeling the burn is bugged, I'm going feeling the burn second. After that, again, keep in mind, are you up against like an Ana? Then I probably wouldn't be, you know, doing melee swing build in the first place, to be honest with you. But you can get something like Vanguard. I really rate Vanguard. You get 20% move speed to your charge. You're faster. You move around. The team goes with you. All is good. Life is fun. And so I like going Vanguard here. And then when it gets like super ridiculous, I'd honestly be open to kind of like what power up you're going here, because realistically none of these power ups are like going to change the game if you're building like a melee power up. Like maybe you want shield stampede for whatever reason, depends on what the opponent is playing. Again, it's hard for me to just like make it up, right? But Wilhelm Wagen I think is super reliable as well. Give you some more move speed, you get some more heal. So if you're in there and you're healing, that is of course going to help you, you know, in those times where maybe you're overcommitted and stuff like that. And then you can keep weapon lifesteal, you heal from the shield, and you can kind of like juggle that to just like stay in the fight more often like that. Could be situations where I maybe don't pick Vanguard, I go Wilhelm Wagen and then Barrier Reconstruction, because that means I'm healing for my shield and I'm building shield by swinging, and I got weapon lifesteal going, and like it just adds to my survivability. But that's kind of like how I think about these power-ups, and any other power-ups here I don't really think about at all if I'm building this weapon build. Same thing as before, I like Frenzy Amplifier. You get active with it. And I like weapon lifesteal as well. If I'm not against like if I'm not up against a Diva or like Orisa Genji with double deflect, I still like to go something like ability lifesteal here. If I'm hitting a charge, if I'm hitting fire strikes mid-fight, I still think 10% ability lifesteal is more valuable than 5% weapon power or 5% attack speed. These numbers are just too low. Like, they just don't excite me. But if you're up against a composition that mitigates a lot of your abilities, then, you know, why not get 5% weapon power, right? So keep that in mind. Now, as we get to like round 2, round 3, again, move speed is the name of the game. So Frenzy Amplifier, 15% move speed after you get an elimination, allows you to get active with it. You can get busy and just run around and have a great time. Shield Buster, usually really good. Usually you're playing against a tank that, you know, will have one of these. I think Junker Queen, probably the only one that doesn't have shield and armor. And so you get 50% attack speed, 5% weapon power. Really solid. Great value for this item as well. And then I just think about, like, I just want more move speed. Because if I don't have move speed, then I can't build my berserking, and I can't, like, scale properly in the fight. If people are just kiting me, then I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything as a Reinhardt whatsoever. So good items for that is Booster Jets, which gives you 20% move speed while you use an ability, and 20% attack speed. So really good item. I would keep this in mind when you're in like round 3, round 4, because then you usually built enough cash to optimize for a good epic item. And so that is definitely something I'd start getting pretty fast in the mid game, to be honest with you, just so you can get up and running and swing away and have an amazing time. Now, looking at other items, Gloom Gauntlet, 10% move speed. Again, I love move speed if I'm playing a melee build, so I would honestly, in most cases, get Gloom Gauntlet before I get my booster jets. So it looks something like this, probably. Where my first epic item is Gloom Gauntlet, because I get melee damage and move speed, life, or max life. And then I get booster jets as well, and I just got even more, ridiculous move speed. And at this point, we're just running around. Like, we're just running around and just, like, swinging at stuff. It gets hilarious. Then I would actually go for a Phantasmic Flux, because you get more weapon power, you get more weapon lifesteal, and if you get, like, really snowball and scaling, like, around 4 or 5, you're definitely going to build the lifesteal up to full life and the overhealth. And so you're just absolutely, like, absurd at this point. And then after that, I think that your 6th item, it's kind of up to you what you want. Do you want to get more health? If you're getting busy with it, then yeah, Rüstung 1 Wilhelm could give you a hand there, for example. It's certainly an item I would keep in mind. Do you want to just get, even more destructive and get some more weapon power, like Eye of the Spider or something like that? Then you can. But I would keep this 6th spot kind of open to what you feel is best for you in the very late game. Weapon Jammer, theoretically, I like this item, but most of the time your opponents aren't actually building attack speed. And so that makes this a little bit less valuable, because it negates 10% of the target's bonus attack speed. And so you actually don't get the full value from Weapon Jammer. But otherwise, I keep it in mind. I would also keep it in mind that if you're around 6, round 7, maybe even earlier, if they don't have a ton of ability mitigation, which if you're playing melee build, they probably do. But I'd keep healing reduction in mind still, because if you're in there, you're swinging away, you're hitting 1 fire strike, 30% ability healing reduction is still really good. So if you can scale and just get silly with it and just swing around, that healing reduction is just going to help you finish off your targets, rather than you just kind of feeling, like you're not doing enough in this kind of scenario. So that is kind of like my go-to weapon build here. I would not go the freaking item that you hold on to your ultimate. I would still not go Vanadium Injection here. I hate this item. I don't like it. It's scary. All right, let's take a look here at some of the crazier melee builds. So we're in round 7 right here, and you're gonna see that I have a ton of move speed here as I just get busy on this arena map right here. So my goal here is just to be in my opponent's face, So you can see I'm charging here, I'm pushing this Ash away, I'm fire striking, I'm probably getting some kind of like move speed. I actually don't know exactly what items and power-ups I have here, but it gets a little silly with it. I get this Bob out of the mix. I got healing reduction here, as you could see there when I charge. And like, look how I'm scaling now. Like I got tons of move speed. I'm charging in. I'm just trying to land, my melees here. And look, they're not playing the best composition here to deal with me in the first place. But I'm in a situation where they're playing Diva. They're playing Genji, which has a deflect. I don't want to play Fire Strike build into this, because, I get kind of like limited value into this. They can mitigate my Fire Strikes, and it's just harder to execute. And so if it allows for it, like obviously we're playing Juno Moira here, and so that kind of like helps my cause. Wanting to play like very active and get in and, hit my melees and stuff like that. But it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun when this build really gets going. And this is one of those situations where, I'd really consider it if they're playing something like a Diva and a Genji. Got a nice little shadow there, and we top it off. We'll win a round 7 win. Now I think I have some other clips here. I can't even remember really what I prepared here. But let's take a look at one of these clips. Okay, I just died then. That's amazing, honestly. But this time we're up against a Genji, we're up against an Orisa, and we're up against a Cassidy. Usually, I wouldn't want to play Fire Strike build into this, because, again, they can have double deflect. So there is an Orisa power-up. Oh, no. Okay, this is a really bad moment, because I Fire Strike a deflect, just like that, which kills my Mercy, and then Genji goes and kills my whole team, and we lose the round. So, great moment from me there. I kickstarted like a Genji 5k. Great times there. But this is one of those situations where actually going Fire Strike build is kind of scary because if the Orisa gets the Deflect power up and Genji has you know, a long duration Deflect build, like you just can't operate. You just can't operate the Fire Strike build against this. And so this is like an example where I would consider going something like a melee build. In this case, we have an Ashe, Cassidy, Mercy. You know, like it's really not a good composition for melee build. And so there's no good answer here for playing Rein. There's really no good answer here for playing Rein. If you wanted to go like, oh, I just go shield build against this, I'll take your word for it. I'll trust you, bro. Like, sure, but again, you're letting the game be dictated by your Cassidy and your Ashe, which, you know, sometimes you don't do that, and sometimes you don't want to do that. It's up to you. It's up to you. We just get destroyed the entire game. Next up, here's an example of me playing against D.Va, Reaper, Cassidy. Do you remember how I said earlier that armor is bugged? Well, this Reaper and this D.Va gave me a miserable time. This was awful. Like, they're just hunting me, and they just know that armor is bugged, and they're just pumping their shotguns into me. Really tricky spot to be in, because D.Va, again, doesn't really allow me to go Fire Strike, because of the mitigation available to them if they want to shut me down. But the fact of the matter is, you can't play melee build into this. If you go melee build into this, you're cooked. Like, they got too many shotguns. The Reaper is going to deal with you before you start scaling your power-ups and your items. Survivability items won't realistically do anything for you, at least until they fix armor. Because, you know, if you get 100 more armor, well, that doesn't matter to the freaking Reaper because armor is bugged anyway. So there's no great answer here. I think I would still just go Fire Strike. And the way I would play this is just stay away. Just stay away. Just don't go near them, okay? Just kite them. Kite them and just lob in the Fire Strikes and keep, you know, D.Va Matrix, you know, at hand. Like, keep that in mind. God, dude, I was so tempted to shatter it right there. So just keep that in mind. There are ways when you play the Fire Strike build when you just want to kite, when you just want to stay away. And this is one of those kind of compositions where it's so hard for you to play into a Reaper and a Cassidy right-click build and a D.Va that it's just too scary. You can't go melee build into this. Now, I wanted to also, I think there is an example here of me playing against kind of an Orisa here. I guess we can kind of like take this as just an example here as well. There was definitely a game in here, and I guess I forgot to bring up the clip in here, where Orisa is a Reinhardt's worst nightmare in this freaking game mode. I swear. Yeah, we can take this as an example. This is actually the game, actually. I was just bullied by this Orisa constantly. So I'll just go back a little bit here, and you can just see how this Orisa is just causing me like tons of pain. I can't scale my melee against this Orisa. I didn't get them off the map. This is so sad. This is so sad. I can't really build my melee build against this because they're just stunning me all the time. They're just in my face. It's miserable, and so I'm not really getting value from a melee build. But I'm also scared to go Fire Strike build because they have Genji Deflect, and the Orisa can go you know, Javelin Spin you know, Deflect as well, and it just gets like, it's a fucking nightmare, I swear to God. And so when you're playing against an Orisa, because there are inevitably going to be times when you're matched up against an Orisa, I would just say stay away. Don't care about the Orisa. If the Orisa chases you, run away. Try to get the other people around the game. Don't chase the Orisa around and just like, oh, I'm just gonna scale my berserking, I'm gonna deal burn damage on the Orisa. It's just like, it's just not the way to play into this matchup. What you want to do is play on the edges, stay away from like the middle of the battle, which is, you know, kind of like unorthodox to most of your teammates. Maybe they're all like, oh, why is there a Reinhardt like in the mix? I'm just chasing like backliners here instead, because there's nothing I can do against this Orisa which makes us win the game. Realistically, we need to kill the supports, we need to kill the damage dealers, and that is the only way we win this game. I don't want to like waste efforts just building like, you know, survivability items or something like that, because again, I don't really rate it. What is ways I can impact the game and win games? It's not by just me and the Orisa just like trading mitigation, because most of the time the Orisa is going to win mitigation anyway. They're just going to get like 10% life when they fortify. They're going to have 45 freaking 8-second duration, and every 2 seconds they'll get it off cooldown. And it's just like, it's not a winning duel for you. It's a matchup that sucks, but I just urge you to play around the Orisa and just try to hunt for the backline, the damage supports instead. That's what you should do when you're matching against an Orisa. If they're only playing an Orisa and not a Genji, then I would actually also as well consider going Fire Strike build anyway. And so if they have like a cast soldier Orisa, then I'm just going Fire Strike build anyway. Again, staying away from the Orisa most of the time, and I'm just trying to kill like other people in behind the Orisa with my Fire Strikes and stuff like that. So keep that in mind when you're faced up against an Orisa. Now, finally, we need to cover the dive Rein build. And now, this is ultimate meme. This is the meme build. It's not going to help you climb ranks desperately in Stadium, but it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, I'll tell you that. So, pretty much regardless of what I play against, I'm going Shield Stampede here. Because the fact of the matter is, you're going to charge a lot, and you're going to be in the enemy backline. And you want to mitigate. This is, of the 3 builds, this is the most mitigate heavy build I will go when it comes to like survivability and keeping myself up. And so if I can take less damage charging in, then that is something I want, because I want to stay alive. I want to focus on survivability in this build. After this, I'm going with Wilhelm Wagen. 2 reasons. First of all, I heal from my shield, which again gives me more survivability, but also it gives me more move speed, which is also going to be quite effective, you know, when I'm charging and just being an absolute mess and just all over the place with it. So, ton of fun in that regard. Now, when we get to the late game, charge build kind of sucks, because all your opponents are gonna scale. They're gonna be crazy, okay? You're gonna have soldiers that just like ignore armor and deal like fucking 25 damage a bullet. Cassidys are just gonna right click like 30 bullets as well. So charge build kind of breaks down here. This is where I like to pivot into ability power, because, you know, you have some charge stuff going for you, and you can't combine that with Fire Strike. And the only way you're gonna win the round 6, round 7 is just not by diving around and being a, you know, a massive mess and, you know, being all over the place. You just gotta launch some Fire Strikes and pray, and you will have enough cash that you will be able to buy ability power items, and you will be effective around 6, 7. But the peak of this build is earlier than the other builds I laid out for you here today. So if you're playing Dive Rein, you want to be effective like round 2, 3, 4. Those are the biggest rounds for you. But as it gets to 5, 6, 7, it gets out of hand for you. And so the way you reclaim some power in the later rounds is by pivoting into an ability power kind of build here. Round 7, I don't really care what you go here. You could go Blazing Blitz and get more Fire Strikes if you're ability power. You could go Room Boom Boom here, honestly, because honestly, you've invested so much in your charge. If you want to charge the entire game, like, go for it. Have fun. But I want it to be ability power centric, and I don't want it to be shield centric or melee centric. So keep that in mind. Now, at the start of the game, same thing as always. Frenzy Amplifier and Lifesteal. That's just my go-tos, as I've laid out earlier in this video. Now, I like to hold on to Frenzy Amplifier. Hopefully, we have enough cash to get the Griffon Glider on the second round. If we do that, this is our go-to item. We get it immediately. Because we're going to be crazy with it. We're going to go in, we're going to go out. It's going to be a great time. Then, afterwards, if I can afford a Griffon Glider, by the way, I'd probably get some survival items. This is where I get Vitality, and this is where I get Crusader Hydraulics. Because I get more armor, and I get damage reduction while I have armor. So, you want some survivability when you're going this charge build here. So, this is what I go if I couldn't afford a Griffon Glider. And then, if I can afford Griffon Glider, I would keep this. I would honestly even sell Frenzy Amplifier, of course, if I could, to get Griffon Glider. And then we can start investing in some more survivability items. Because, again, like I said earlier, if you're going Dive Rein build, you are going to be by yourself. You can't rely on your supports to heal you and keep you up. And so you need to trust yourself. You need to play your own game. And this is where survivability items come into play to help you stay alive and just cause a mess in the enemy backline. And hopefully it builds enough time for your enemy, or for your teammates rather, to capitalize on this. So I like Crusader Hydraulics. I like I said earlier, I like Mecha Z series and the bigger brother, Rüstung von Wilhelm. I will almost certainly get Rüstung von Wilhelm some point in the Dive Rein build, maybe like round 3, round 4, round 5. But if I were to kind of lay out a bit of a build here, if I suppose, if you wanted like a, you know, something on paper, like 6 items on paper, I'd probably get something like that. It's so dynamic that I honestly, I don't even like think about like what 6 I should get off the bat here. I know for sure which ones I would get, but I don't have a script before me. So, I'm lost in the sauce. I'm lost in the sauce. I would stick with survival items, probably. And you know, if you can get some move speed... Oh! I remember now. I wanted 20% move speed while I use abilities. Where is it? Booster jets. Yeah, I like booster jets. So, there you go. Because again, if you use an ability, charge, you get move speed. If you use fire strike, more move speed. And so you're just a mess in the backline, chasing people around, and you get more move speed. So, I like that. I love that for us. And then, by this point, 3,200 or 32,000 is probably as much money as you'll get to. Before you start getting into the late game, you know, you can get some more survival items here, you know, Mecha Set series, and like, at this point you would have like 1,100 health or something like that. But this is where I would start pivoting into just like our standard ability power build here, around 6, 7. Because you could get more survivability if you want in 5, 6, 7. I just don't think it does anything for the game. It doesn't help you win the game. And so this is where I would start to pivot to ability power. So this is like 3,500, which is, you know, roughly the same as we covered before. And then if you wanted to add in, like, let's say you add in like a dampener grip or something like that, right? Because it's a good item, especially if you're allowed to swing, and you got the tools, you got the power-ups available to you anyway to be more healthy if you wanted to, you know, get into the backline or get close to people. So dampener grip could be good for you. And these are the ability power kind of like items I would get for you as you start to get to the late round with this dive Rein build. Now, what does this look like? Well, it looks like absolute chaos. That is what it looks like. You'd want to charge and just be an absolute nuisance, okay? There's a reason why this is a meme build, and it's not the biggest build around, okay? Because you are going to disrupt hit scan players. That is your goal. You're going to get deep. So immediately, take the high ground here on Hanaoka. I don't know what the enemy Rein is doing. I don't care. That's not my job. The enemy Rein fed. Charges up. I'm just pushing the backline. That's all I do. I am just pushing the backline. I've now separated the backline from the damage players, and, you know, we win the fight because the enemy Rein, he inted. All good. Not my problem. I only care about getting deep into the backline and getting on top of Cassidy's, getting on top of soldiers, and like my team, I'm sorry, bud. My team, I don't care. I don't care about my team. I really don't. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get move speed, and I'm just trying to be a nuisance and, you know, hit my charge and, you know, try to live. So, right here, you know, I live because, thank God, I had Vanguard here, actually. So I got some overhealth there when I charge as well. Vanguard is really powerful when you play this charge build. I'll actually cover this when I go back to the game screen here after you can see some more of this gorgeous charge dive Rein kind of gameplay here. And look, is it always the strongest build? No. It's a meme build, but it's a lot of fun, guys. So I really do recommend that you try this build out and just have fun with it and go absolutely crazy with it. So, oh, there's the Rein as well. The Rein gave in, and he was just like, I need to charge as well because it just looks like too much fun. But they kind of messed it up, so not my fault. We end up winning this round. And there are a couple of other examples of rounds where I would say that it's quite powerful. If there are like big gaps here, so let's see how this round goes here. I'm going to charge out of spawn here. And this is a bit of a longer map here on Colosseo. So, you know, I take a ton of space immediately. I do just chill. I do just chill for a little bit. So, but you know, my charge is up. I'm going in. I'm going in, buddy. And this is just kind of how I play. Like, my charge is... I pretty much use my charge whenever it is up. Now, obviously, I have to keep the hinder in mind here. So I'm not charging the Cassidy immediately. But it certainly helps having shield stampeded there as well. And I just get so much space for my team. There's the enemy Rein. They're also inting. We're just inting all over the place. It's a great time. Both Reinhardt's inting. This is what you want to see in your Overwatch games. This is peak fun. This is what I'm talking about. For some reason, I'm pushing the cart here. Let me just... Okay, thank God, Juno. I can move up here. But, yeah, it's a bit of a meme build. The hit scan players, they hate it. The Cassidys, the soldiers, they hate it. It's absolutely awful for them because they don't have any room to operate with most of the time. Are there going to be games where the enemy hit scan is just like destroying you and they're like, why are you playing this build? You're griefing, you're losing for your team. There are definitely going to be moments where that happens and you get 0 value and the enemy hit scan, they laugh at you, but it's fun, okay? That's what I care about. It's fun. So I do recommend you still try this little dive Rein build out there. Let's see if there's one more charge here. I charge the Rein too much. Don't play like me here. Don't play like me here. You wanna play a bit more. You wanna be a bit more all over the place here. So this is perfect. You know, soldier up on the high ground. He's like, this fucking Reinhardt won't get out of my face. Okay, this is like the only time where like I'm playing like a Winston right here. I'm playing like a Winston with a Winston bubble. I'm just like jumping up, I'm jumping down, alley-oop, boom. The soldier's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this fucking Reinhardt won't get out of my face, and so I have no room to operate. They're calling GG's in chat. The soldier is spawned. Like, let's shatter him for you know, some good reason. I hope I really got up there once again. Oh my god, that person really left the game. Get on him out once more. Like, he's pissed. Look at the soldier. The soldier is so pissed. Can't do anything. Can't do anything. Because I'm just like diving. I'm diving like a Winston on top of them. And it's a great time. So I do recommend you take this build out. But like I said, I don't really think I picked Vanguard here in my build, which I do regret. So sometimes I do like picking Vanguard as my power, because you get health when you charge in and move speed. And crucially, you get health when you charge out, which is really handy, because if you're deep in the enemy backline by yourself, then you getting... I'd actually honestly reset this if I could. I don't want big shield stampede and Vanguard, because I think it's the better kind of like more consistent. So these are the powers I'd actually get here, because if you can get an extra 100 health when you charge out, that is also going to be beneficial to you. So Vanguard, love the value, super consistent. But that kind of does it. That kind of does it for the 3 builds I had in mind here. I think I've covered all the counter matchups, what you need to keep in mind, items, powers, everything. I don't think there's anything I missed in this video. But if you do have questions, there is inevitably going to be changes. There are going to be bug fixes, and there'll be an ongoing conversation. So there'll be new characters released. So if you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll respond to it. And we'll just have a great time playing Reinhardt in the stadium. And it's a fantastic time. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe. It's a great time. It's a great time. Reinhardt is so back. There's no Reinhardt counters as much in stadium as there is in competitive play. Have fun.